The Second World War stands as one of the most powerful turning points in human history, a conflict that reshaped nations, societies, and the global order forever. Fought between 1939 and 1945, it was not only a war of weapons and armies, but a struggle of ideas, survival, and the future direction of humanity. The consequences of this war reached far beyond the battlefield and continued to influence the modern world. The origins of the Second World War lie in the unresolved tensions left behind after the First World War. Many countries were left economically weak, politically unstable, and deeply divided. Germany, in particular, faced humiliation and hardship due to harsh treaties and economic collapse. These conditions created an environment where extreme ideologies could grow. Leaders emerged who promised national revival and strength, using fear and anger to gain support. This shift marked a dangerous change in global politics. When Germany invaded Poland in 1939, it triggered a chain reaction that pulled the world into conflict. What followed was unlike any war before it. The speed and scale of military operations shocked the world. Entire countries were conquered in a matter of weeks, and millions of people found themselves living under occupation. For civilians, life changed overnight, as freedoms disappeared and survival became uncertain. This period marked the beginning of a global crisis that would test humanity's moral and physical limits. As the war expanded, it became clear that this was not just a European conflict. In Asia, Japan pursued aggressive expansion, drawing vast regions into war. In 1941, the attack on Pearl Harbor brought the United States into the conflict, transforming the war into a truly global struggle. With nations from every continent involved, the Second World War became a defining moment for the entire world. One of the most significant aspects of the war was the scale of destruction. Cities were bombed relentlessly, industries were turned into targets, and civilians suffered alongside soldiers. Technology played a major role, as warfare became more industrialized and deadly. Tanks, aircraft, submarines, and new weapons changed how wars were fought. This level of destruction forced humanity to confront the devastating costs of modern conflict. The Second World War was also a turning point in how power was distributed globally. Before the war, European empires dominated world affairs. After years of fighting, these powers were weakened both economically and politically. Britain and France emerged victorious, but exhausted, no longer able to maintain their vast empires. This decline opened the door for independence movements across Asia, Africa, and the Middle East, changing the global political map. At the same time, new superpowers emerged. The United States and the Soviet Union rose from the war as the most influential nations in the world. Their different political and economic systems led to a new kind of conflict known as the Cold War. While the Second World War ended open fighting, it set the stage for decades of tension, competition, and ideological struggle. This shift defined international relations for much of the 20th century. The war also brought about major social changes. Women took on roles that were previously denied to them, working in factories, serving in military support positions, and contributing directly to the war effort. These experiences challenged traditional gender roles and laid the groundwork for future movements for equality. Societies began to change, realizing that old structures could no longer fully define the modern world. Another crucial turning point was the global response to the human suffering caused by the war. The sheer scale of civilian deaths, displacement, and destruction shocked the international community. In response, new efforts were made to prevent such tragedies in the future. The United Nations was established to promote peace, cooperation, and collective security. While imperfect, it represented a global commitment to diplomacy over destruction. Scientific and technological advancements accelerated rapidly during the war. Developments in medicine, engineering, and communication had long-term benefits beyond the battlefield. However, the creation and use of atomic weapons introduced a new and terrifying reality. The bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki showed that humanity now possessed the power to destroy itself completely. This realization changed how nations approached war and peace, making restraint and dialogue more important than ever. The Second World War also changed how history itself was understood. It revealed how quickly democratic institutions could collapse under pressure and how dangerous unchecked power could become. At the same time, it demonstrated the strength of resistance, unity, and sacrifice. Ordinary people, not just leaders, played vital roles in shaping outcomes. Their choices, courage, and endurance proved that individuals mattered in the course of history. When the war finally ended in 1945, the world faced the enormous task of rebuilding. Cities lay in ruins, economies were shattered, and millions of families mourned their losses. Yet, from this devastation came renewal. Nations rebuilt with new systems, new alliances, and new hopes. The memory of the war pushed many countries to seek cooperation rather than conflict, understanding that survival depended on shared responsibility. The Second World War remains a turning point because it marked the end of an old world and the beginning of a new one. It closed the chapter on colonial dominance, introduced the era of superpowers, and reshaped social values. It forced humanity to reflect on the consequences of hatred, ambition, and division, while also highlighting the importance of unity and compassion. Even today, the lessons of the Second World War remain deeply relevant. It reminds us that peace is fragile and must be protected through understanding, cooperation, and vigilance. The war changed history not only through destruction, but through the lessons it left behind. As a turning point, it continues to shape the way nations interact and how humanity understands its shared future.